Okay, so what is the Bible? That's such a basic question that most of us don't even ever ask. But it's such a crucial question to ask because if we don't know, we'll read the Bible in a way it was never intended to be read. And we'll think we understand it while we're entirely missing the point.
Right. So, first of all, as we ask what the Bible is, let's get clear about what the Bible is not. The Bible is not a textbook. What do we mean by that? Well, the Bible is true and reliable in everything it intends to say. It doesn't actually intend to say everything about everything. While it says things that are true about the physical world, it was simply not intended to be read as a textbook that details the science of how things in the physical world operate. And while it says things that are true about human history, it was not written simply to deliver a dispassionate, factual account of historical events. Now, everything written in the Bible has a purpose that goes deeper than the details that contemporary Western people think are important. In every bit of the Bible, God is saying something beyond the factoids. He's saying something about who He is, what He does, and who we are in the world.
So the Bible is not just a textbook, but the Bible is also not just a book of fables. Fables are stories whose events have no basis in reality, but they teach us a moral lesson, like the fable of the rabbit and the turtle.
Or the tortoise and the hare, as some of us call it.
No one thinks that race between these two animals ever happened, but we see that it has a deeper meaning about being slow and steady, and that's better than being fast and unpredictable.
Yeah, so now, the Bible does have some similar types of stories in its pages. For example, Jesus' parables are not meant to be taken as having any real basis in historical events, but they are true on a deeper, a spiritual level. But the Bible as a whole tells a story that is very much intended to have purchase in the real world that we live in. Generally speaking, the meaning of Bible stories can be relied upon because it's a deeply true rendering of the events being described. For example, Jesus really did raise from the dead. When the Gospels tell us this, it's not just a metaphor, it's a real event that happened. And because it happened, we have a hope of our own resurrections really happening, not just happening metaphorically.
Finally, believe it or not, the Bible is not just a rule book for a right living. So often, Christians get the idea in their head that the purpose of the Bible is to tell them how to be good people in any situation. So sometimes we tend to read it moralistically. But while the Bible contains some incredibly wise principles for living a good and beautiful life, and while it tells us what behaviors turn us toward God and what turns us away from God, the purpose of the Bible as a whole is not to tell us how we can pull ourselves up by our moral bootstraps.
Amen. No, the Bible is not a textbook, it's not a fable, and it's not a rule book. We believe that the Bible is actually the true story of the whole world. Even though it has 66 books and was written by dozens of authors over thousands of years, the Bible is a single story of how God created us in love, how we turned away from Him, and how God moved and is moving heaven and earth to get us back and will set the world right at the end of history. And that story, as Jesus Himself shows us and His disciples in Luke 24, that story is centered on and fulfilled in Jesus of Nazareth.
As we read this story, as we let it soak into us, as we find our place and our identity in God's bigger narrative, we find that the Bible is a source of comfort, confidence, wisdom, identity, guidance, and grace.
Yeah, the Bible is our foundation. That's why at our church, at Tapestry, you'll find that every sermon is grounded in the Bible, not just our own ideas or the latest popular Christian book. And it's also why our Connect Group discussion guides always steer us toward the Bible. The Bible is the story we need to hear over and over until we find ourselves in its pages.